Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 381. Thank you for joining me. Hope you guys had a good weekend. I'm going to pick up where we left off in the last podcast, but first I want to talk a little bit about this this Don Lemon arrest and this controversy around the protest at this church that happened 2 weeks ago in Minnesota. And I'm going to weave it back into talking about what we were talking about in the last podcast. But I want to start with a couple of clips from lawyers. We're going to first listen to Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz is a famous criminal defense attorney. He was on the O.J. Simpson team. He has been on the legal teams of many other major high-profile defendants. He is, I think he teaches at Harvard, Alan Dershowitz, and we're going to listen to what Alan Dershowitz says here to Greta Van Susteren. We'll get started with this.
All right, the other people there, not Don Lemon, but the other people there.
So she's asking about the other protesters. There were 5 different people indicted with this initial indictment, and they say they're going to indict more of the people who participated in this protest. But she's saying in the beginning of this interview, Alan Dershowitz is saying what a lot of people are saying is that the First Amendment protects Don Lemon, that Don Lemon is a journalist and the First Amendment protects what he was doing. But these other people, the other people who are not considered journalists, what about them is what Greta Van Susteren is asking about.
All right, the other people there, not Don Lemon, but the other people there, what about them? Was that a crime going into and making that noise? That trespass? Is that violating the civil rights of these people's right to worship? Tell me, what is that?
That is a crime.
That's a crime.
It's a constitutional crime, constitutionally permissible crime. You can't disrupt a church service. The First Amendment does not allow you to go into a church and say, you know, Jesus Christ didn't exist or God is dead. You can say it outside the church, but you can't disrupt the church service, and you can't go into a church and accuse the minister of being complicit in crimes with ICE. You can do it outside. You can hand out leaflets, but you can't disrupt the church service.
So he's saying that it's a crime what these other people did. Now, if you watch the earlier part of this interview, I don't have time to play it, but he says that Don Lemon is protected from this crime. Even though it's a crime what these other people did, Don Lemon is protected from this crime because he's protected by the First Amendment because he's a journalist, is what Alan Dershowitz says.
Of being complicit
but it's a crime.
In crimes with ICE. You can do it outside. You can hand out leaflets, but you can't disrupt the church service. And the evidence strongly suggests that there's enough here to convict people who are not journalists of improperly and illegally disrupting a church service.
Says the evidence is strong enough to convict people who are not journalists. And then watch what Greta Van Susteren says, who's a lawyer herself. Watch what she says.
Who are not journalists of improperly and illegally disrupting a church service.
Well, it's sort of interesting. This is where the cameras come in. Everybody with a cell phone these days, because, you know, the protesters who did go in, I'm not talking about Don Lemon, but the protesters who did go in, they're all on some camera someplace. I mean, because nobody escapes these iPhones.
So what about them?
That helps, obviously, produce justice in criminal cases.
So listen to what Greta Van Susteren says. She says that now these other protesters who you've already said were that they committed a crime, and there's strong evidence to convict them of that crime. What about these other people that were part of the protest? They had their cell phone out. They were documenting it. Like this guy, this is one of the guys who was indicted and arrested. He's got his cell phone out while he's there berating the people at this church, calling them fake Christians, but he's got his cell phone out. Why is this guy not a journalist? Why is this guy not protected by the First Amendment? Alan?
And you can see all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps.
So
You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters.
So he's documenting this on his cell phone while he's berating these people. And so why is this guy not a journalist? This is what Greta Van Susteren asked Alan Dershowitz, and he doesn't give a great answer. And that's an answer that a jury is going to have to decide. A lot of people were saying that this Don Lemon case, I believe that it's going to be thrown out, and it may be thrown out. We'll see what it's going to be up to a judge. But I personally think, and you're going to see why, that Don Lemon is in some legal trouble. Now, this is CNN's legal analyst. I want you to listen to what he says in this segment.
This is very troubling for a lot of people. Ellie Honig, I think there is a complicated criminal picture potentially for the protesters who staged this demonstration. But what do you think the picture is for the journalists who are there, and especially, Georgia Ford? You could see her microphone was,
she had a microphone. She had a microphone. Oh, you could see her microphone. This guy had a camera, a cell phone camera. He was documenting himself while he was committing a crime. Why is he not protected by the First Amendment? Oh, she had a microphone. She's protected.
Georgia Ford, you could see her microphone was, labeled for her independent news organization. Don Lemon, he's a journalist that is known around the world. He was reporting live from the church. What do you make of that?
I think the cases against Don Lemon and Georgia Ford are doomed. And I will grant that I think the cases against the other people who interrupted that church service are valid. And
I grant, same thing that Alan Dershowitz says, he says the exact same thing that Alan Dershowitz said, that the charges against the other people who were not journalists, those are valid. Those are valid crimes. Those are valid charges that based on the evidence and the video evidence of them recording themselves, idiots, committing crimes, Alan Dershowitz says there's enough to convict. And that's what Ellie says here too. He was a federal prosecutor before he became the legal analyst for CNN. He says that the crime for the other people who are not journalists, that's a crime, pretty clear crime. He says, I'll grant that, but Don Lemon and his producer are protected by the First Amendment, even though that they are there with the people committing the crime. They're not part of the crime because they're protected by the First Amendment because they're journalists. That's what he says.
Labeled for her independent news organization. Don Lemon, he's a journalist that is known around the world. He was reporting live from the church. What do you make of that?
I think the cases against Don Lemon and Georgia Ford are doomed. And I will grant that I think the cases against the other people who interrupted that church service are valid. And I think they did commit those crimes. But the reason that the case against Don and Ms. Ford are different is because of the First Amendment. You cannot charge a journalist for doing their job. It is not a crime to cover a crime. And
it's not a crime to cover a crime. And he says that the charges against everyone else is valid, but because of the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, or make no law abridging speech or the freedom of the press. That amendment gives Don Lemon the protection as he goes in with all these people who Ellie admits they broke the law. Dershowitz admit they broke the law, but Don Lemon and his producers are protected because of the First Amendment that speaks to Congress and says Congress shall make no law. This is ridiculous.
I think they did commit those crimes. But the reason that the case against Don and Ms. Ford are different is because of the First Amendment. You cannot charge a journalist for doing their job. It is not a crime to cover a crime. And just to put it in context, let's just go through the sequence of how this charge came about. DOJ first goes to a magistrate judge who says, I am going to issue the criminal complaint against 3 of the people who went into the church, but not the complaint against Don Lemon. Then DOJ says, well, let's appeal that up to the chief district court judge who issues this scathing letter saying, this is not even a thing you're asking me to do. I asked every other district court judge in this district, and they said they'd never even heard of it. You're rejected again. And then they get a grand jury to indict today. So it's on the 3rd try they come back with this indictment against Don Lemon.
So that's not true. And either Ellie doesn't know what happened or he's doing what they often do on CNN. They lie. The magistrate judge who did sign the arrest warrant for the first 3 people who were arrested, the people that aren't journalists. He refused to sign the arrest warrant for Don Lemon. But that guy should have recused himself. First of all, he's a magistrate judge, and his wife works in the office with Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison goes on Don Lemon's show the day after this happens and says, there's nothing to see here. You have a constitutional right to protest in the church. Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, goes on Don Lemon's show and says there's nothing to see here. At a very minimum, he should be brought up on state charges for trespassing. But Keith Ellison, the lead law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota, goes on Don Lemon's show and says, there's nothing to see here. You're constitutionally protected to go and protest in the church. The magistrate judge's wife works in the office with Keith Ellison, and they found a post of hers on LinkedIn where she's liking and commenting positively on posts condemning ICE from the Attorney General's office. He should have recused himself. So that's why the magistrate judge didn't sign the order. But the appellate judge, here's the ruling from the appellate judge right here. This is what it says in the second paragraph. The complaint, right here, underlined, the complaint and affidavit clearly established probable cause for all 5 arrest warrants. Let me read that again. This is the appellate judge who Eli just said that, he didn't know what was going on, and he threw it out too, and they had to go to a grand jury to get the indictment because even the district appellate judge wouldn't issue the arrest warrant. This is what the appellate judge says right here. This is the ruling. The complaint and affidavit clearly established probable cause for all 5 arrest warrants. And while there is no discretion to refuse to issue an arrest warrant for all 5, the 3 that were arrested and then first, and then Don Lemon and his producer next, for all 5, there's no discretion to refuse to issue the arrest warrant once probable cause for this is for its insurance issuance is what it says. For its issuance has been shown. Probable cause but basically he says, the appellate judge says that all 5 arrest warrants, probable cause has been established for all 5 arrest warrants, including Don Lemon. And then he says here in the second page of the ruling, the government has failed to establish that it has no other adequate means of obtaining the requested relief. So this is basically the appellate district federal judge is saying that even though there was probable cause to arrest Don Lemon, that you need to go to a grand jury. That to get the arrest warrant, you haven't shown or adequate means of obtaining, that there are no other adequate means of obtaining requested relief. That you have to go to a grand jury. So basically the appellate judge tells them to go to the grand jury. That's why they go to the grand jury. But he says that the probable cause to arrest Don Lemon was there. And absolutely it's there. Anyone who has been following this is the woman that organized the event, what they called the pull-up event at the church to go and disrupt a Sunday service at a church in St. Paul. Nakima, she was arrested first with the first 3 that got the arrest warrant from the magistrate judge when they refused to sign it for Don Lemon. And she's on with Chris Cuomo, who was Don Lemon's BFF on CNN when they used to run their shows back to back. Now he's on News Nation. And I want you to listen to what Nakima said. This is central to Don Lemon's journalist defense. This is central. The fact that he didn't know that they were going to the church. Take a listen.
So on Saturday, I posted a flyer about this action with no details other than show up at the Cub Foods parking lot if you want to participate. So Saturday night, I got a call from Don asking about this protest. And I said, listen, I can't reveal any information.
I can't reveal anything.
He said he would be heading into town on Sunday. And I'm like, I have to treat you like everyone else. I cannot reveal any information about it because I don't want it to leak.
I got to treat you like everybody else, Don Lemon. I can't tell you what's going on. I can't tell you what we're going to do. So this is central to his defense, is that Don Lemon did not know what was going on, that he was there following this group. He didn't know what they were going to do, that they were getting ready to go commit a crime. He has to be able to say that I didn't know that they were getting ready to go commit a crime. I didn't know in advance what these people were going to do. And she's helping Don Lemon because she's a lawyer too. She's helping Don Lemon with his defense by saying Don Lemon didn't know anything. Don Lemon just showed up at the parking lot where we said that we were going to meet, didn't tell anyone what we were going to do. Don Lemon didn't know what we were going to do. This is central to his defense.
Show up at the Cub Foods parking lot if you want to participate. Mm-hmm. So Saturday night, I got a call from Don asking about this protest. And I said, listen, I can't reveal any information about this protest. He said he would be heading into town on Sunday. And I'm like, I have to treat you like everyone else. I cannot reveal any information about it because I don't want it.
Can't tell you nothing, buddy.
And so I said, if you want to document what's happening, then show up at the Cub Foods parking lot like everybody else. Right?
Okay.
Same with Georgia.
Okay, let me ask.
So, go ahead.
Let me ask you something else. Nakima. Did Don Lemon believe that you had been invited in by the preacher?
I'm not sure what he believed.
Oh, you don't know what he believed. I'm not sure what he believed. All right, so this is Don Lemon before the pull-up event, before they go into the church, and he's there talking with Nakima, and she knows exactly what he believes because she tells him what's going on right here. Don Lemon didn't know anything. Take a listen. This is the evidence that the judge saw when he says there's adequate evidence for all 5 arrest warrants. There's adequate arrest. That's what the grand jury saw. Take a listen.
Tell us why you're doing this.
This is Operation Pull Up, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere that is a key location. They don't expect us to come there, and then we disrupt business as usual. So that's what we're about to go do right now.
That's what we're about to go do right now is disrupt business as usual. So Don Lemon knew before they were going that they were going somewhere. She doesn't say where in this clip. We're getting there. She doesn't say where in this clip, but he knows because she says that the reason that we're going is to disrupt wherever we're going. Don Lemon don't know where we're going, but wherever we're going to disrupt business as usual. She says it right there. So when Chris Cuomo asked Nakima, did Don Lemon believe that you guys were invited into the church? No, Don Lemon didn't believe that. Don Lemon believed that they were going to disrupt business as usual because that's what she says here in this interview. All right. Here's Don Lemon in his car with his producer and other members of his team outside of the church. And they get there before Nakima and the other protesters get there, and they're debating if they should go inside. And I want you to take a listen to what's said here.
Okay, so we are here. Now, do you think if you just have it, I think maybe if you just have it on the church, but if they see.
He says right there, church. He says right there, church. If you just had it on the church. He's not supposed to know. He's in the car waiting for everybody else to show up. He's there out in front of the church. He's not supposed to know that they're going to the church, okay?
So we are here. Now, do you think if you just have it, I think maybe if you just have it on the church, but if they see me, they're going to know.
So what he's saying here, he's saying that if they go in and before Nakima and the rest of the protesters get there and they start setting up and the church parishioners see him, he's like, when they see me, when they see Don Lemon, they're going to know. He thinks a lot of himself. But he says, if they see me, they're going to know. We can't do that. We can't go before Nakima because if they see me in the church, then they're going to know. This is before any of this happens.
So we are here. Now, do you think if you just have it, I think maybe if you just have it on the church, but if they see me, They're gonna know. No?
I don't. It just depends.
What?
Don't name the location.
I'm not naming the location, but I mean,
I'm not naming the location. Don't name the location. No, I'm not naming the location. I don't know the location. Not supposed to name the location. Can't say the location. But you already said church. Don Lemon is an idiot, people.
if they see me, they're gonna know. No?
I don't. It just depends.
What?
Don't name the location.
I'm not naming the location, but I mean,
I mean,
I'm just.
So, and even the producer saying, don't name the location, because they've obviously been told that they can't say what the location is, but they know what the location is. They're parked right outside of the location. And he knows because he interviewed Nikema before they went. She says they were going to disrupt business as usual. And he knows the location, but they've obviously been told that not to say what the location is because Nikema wanted to keep it a secret because it's a pull-up. So he's playing along with Nikema. All this is in the indictment.
No?
Don Lemon's an idiot.
What?
don't name the location.
I'm not naming the location, but I mean,
I mean,
I'm just wondering if
at
you
some
see
point,
me.
I mean,
the folks inside see me.
Are the congregants really on live instead of in service right now?
No, but they'll be like, "Why is Don Lemon here?"
Oh yeah, Sunday morning.
Sunday morning church.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see.
They said it again. He's like, what? You're not supposed to say church. But you already said church, and you said Sunday morning, and you said service. I mean.
The folks inside see me.
Are the congregants really on live instead of in service right now?
No, but they'll be like, "Why is Don Lemon here?"
Oh yeah, Sunday morning.
Sunday morning church.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see.
Well, what else? It's Sunday, and we already said the church.
No, we didn't.
Yes, you said it.
No, I didn't.
No,
I did not.
We were saying that
you said it first. You were actually the first person to say church in this. This is going to be in evidence. All this is going to be in evidence, and it's your own video that you put online, and this is going to be in evidence against you. And so his defense that, I didn't know, and that I didn't know what they were doing, and they were getting ready to go commit a crime. It's impossible for him to say that he didn't know that they were going to commit a crime. Like it says in the indictment, he helps them conceal the fact that they are going to the church to commit a crime.
Into Minneapolis.
This is at the parking lot where they all met again before they went over to the church. I want you to listen to Don Lemon here.
Go and did some reconnaissance on the ground, speaking to an organization there that's gearing up for resistance and protest. I've been pleasantly surprised to see the community coming together. Diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? And as it turns out, because we were like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? Saw the American flag.
It's kind of MAGA coded. We see American flag there, and this is kind of MAGA coded. There's white people. This is kind of MAGA coded. That's what he's saying. So the reason that it's MAGA coded, he explains right here, the reason that meaning that there's American flags and white people MAGA coded. And he says that the reason it's MAGA coded because of this particular protest that we're going to, we needed to have some white people and MAGA people along with this. So it's not just a bunch of black and brown people invading this white church. That's exactly what he's saying here.
It's to see the community coming together. Diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? And as it turns out, because we were like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? Saw the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up. And it's Nikema Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd.
So when he says, I can't tell you exactly what's going on, do you think that he means I can't tell you exactly what's going on because I don't know what's going on? Or I can't tell you exactly what's going on because I'm not supposed to say. I'm not supposed to divulge that we're getting ready to go commit a crime. What do you think the answer to that question is?
American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up. And it's Nikema Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd. Dante Wright and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. And so that's what we're doing here. And then we're after that.
Surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account.
Dante Wright and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. And so that's what we're doing here. And then we're after that, after we do this operation, you'll see it live. And these operations are surprise operations. Again, can't tell you where they're going.
All right. So, this is Don Lemon also. And I want you to pay attention to the guy with the bullhorn, because this is Don Lemon also at the same spot where they were all meeting before they go to the church. He's handing out donuts and coffee to the protesters. What kind of journalist does this? What kind of journalist shows up to the place where the people he's supposed to be covering with donuts and coffee and, hey, here, take some donuts and coffee before you go over and break the law?
Lemon is on the front lines right now.
It's going to be difficult for Don Lemon to say that he is not one of the protesters, the part of the group, when they showed this video of him handing out coffee and donuts to the group before they go over to the church and break the law. And the lawyers like Dershowitz and the CNN lawyer already said that the protesters, that they broke the law. That the only thing that protects Don Lemon from being with the lawbreakers is the First Amendment and the fact that he's a journalist. But when they show this to the jury, Don Lemon showing up with coffee and donuts to hand out to the protesters before he's covering them and participating in his First Amendment right as a journalist, this is ridiculous.
Lemon is on the front lines right now.
Thank you.
Listen to the guy in the bullhorn and what he says. Don Lemon is on the front lines right now. Don Lemon is on the front lines right now, is what the guy with the bullhorn says.
Lemon is on the front lines right now.
Thank you.
Follow Don Lemon. He ain't on CNN no more, so he right here in the front line.
Independent, yeah.
Tell him to come get some coffee.
Hey, Don Lemon got some coffee for y'all.
And donuts.
And donuts. And he ain't talking about...
Don Lemon's got some coffee for y'all and donuts.
Yeah.
Tell him to come get some coffee.
Hey, Don Lemon got some coffee for y'all.
And donuts.
And donuts. And he ain't talking about police.
You want some coffee?
He wants some coffee. Don Lemon, I trust Don Lemon coffee.
You want some coffee?
He ain't finna point you.
Coffee.
I love some coffee. Thank you, Don. Great to see you here. Thank you.
So he's handing out coffee before the group goes to break the law, to go and disrupt Sunday service at the church. But he doesn't know what's going on. He's not part of the group. And this is Don Lemon inside of the church service while the disruption is going on, while the law breaking is going on. And this is Don Lemon. Take a listen to what he says.
This is the beginning of what's going to happen here. When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution. When you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And if you remember what the civil rights movement was about.
I mean, I was when I saw this, I was so disgusted by what these people did in this church. Just completely disgusted by this and disgusted by Don Lemon as well. I mean, it is ridiculous to say that this guy is not taking part in this disruptive process because he is a journalist. It's ridiculous. Anybody should be able to use that defense then. This guy, he had his camera out while he's berating the parishioners, calling them fake Christians. He should be able to use the same defense as Don Lemon, that he's a journalist too. He's got his cell phone out. It's completely ridiculous. And the pearl clutching and the people that are just up in arms and democracy's over if Don Lemon is indicted. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. Listen to this guy. He's saying that this is what these people deserve. He's basically what he's saying. He's saying that this is what happens when you violate people's constitution. You guys are the ones violating their constitutional right to worship and have their church service in peace. You guys are violating their constitutional rights. But he's saying that this is what happens when when ICE is violating people's constitutional rights and listen to what he says.
You violate people's due process when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution. When you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And if you remember what the Civil Rights Movement was about, the Civil Rights Movement was about these very kinds of protests. There's nothing in the Constitution that tells you what time you can protest. You can protest at any time. That's the whole point of it, is to disrupt, to make uncomfortable. And that's what
the whole point of this is to disrupt and to make people uncomfortable, is what he's saying. And he's saying this is our constitutional right, like the civil rights movement, to come in these people's church in the middle of church service and disrupt. This is what protest is about. This is Don Lemon's commentary while he's there filming everything. Now, like I said, many of the commentary coming from the Hollywood and the liberal elite, the pearl clutching, and the people saying that this is a threat to democracy. Democracy is over. That this violates press freedom and all this stuff. There's so many of those clips, and you've probably seen many of them. I don't have time to play them all, but I am going to play Harvey Levin, a couple of clips from him, because he went viral with his outrageous overtake and hyperbole about Don Lemon being rightfully arrested and indicted. Take a listen to Harvey Levin.
So the Trump administration wonders why people are saying that they are trying to form a dictatorship. Well,
dictatorship.
Look at the landscape. Arresting Don Lemon,
he broke the law,
covered a protest in Minneapolis, is just insane, ridiculous, dictator-like.
Dictator-like.
This is the playbook that dictators use to destroy democracies and take the will of the people away.
Wow.
It is as simple as that. The First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason. It is considered the preferred amendment when you have to start balancing what's more important. The framers of the Constitution knew that a free press was essential to a democracy.
So this clown doesn't even know. I mean, first of all, the Bill of Rights are amendments to the Constitution. They're the first 10 amendments, and they weren't even included in the draft of the first 7 articles when the first draft came out. The only reason that we have the First Amendment and the other 9 amendments of the Bill of Rights is because when they sent the 7 articles of the Constitution that the framers framed in Constitutional Hall, they sent it to the different commonwealths to be ratified. The people in those states asked for amendments for the rights of the people as amendments to be ratified in the Constitution. I mean, to be amended to the Constitution before it could be ratified. And there were more than 10, and they winded up with 10 amendments that outline the rights of the people. The people of that period of time never would have been able to conceive of the idea of protesters coming and demonstrating in a Sunday church service. Never would have been able to even conceive of that. I have this other clip. I'm almost done here with Harvey Levin. I want to play this clip as well. This was a podcast that he does with Mark Garagos, another attorney who was on the O.J. Simpson. I think Garagos was on the O.J. Simpson legal team. But take a listen to what Levin says here.
If Don Lemon is convicted of this ridiculousness of reporting on a protest in a church, American democracy is dead. And Mark, that is not hyperbole.
He says, and Mark, that is not hyperbole. That's absolutely hyperbole that democracy is dead if Don Lemon is convicted. You know how many journalists that the Obama administration indicted for their reporting on his foreign policy? Did democracy die? You know how many people tried to claim that they were journalists that went into the Capitol on January 6th and that they were indicted. But no, if Don Lemon goes to jail or if Don Lemon is convicted, then democracy is over, according to Harvey Levin.
Democracy is dead.
It's dead.
And Mark, that is not hyperbole. Rosa Parks did a simple thing on a bus.
The Don Lemon's Rosa Parks now.
It changed America. And I think there is huge significance to this case. If a reporter cannot report on what is going on of national importance and be there chronicling it, then freedom of the press is dead. And when freedom of the press is dead, democracy dies.
Yeah, if he would have done what you said that he did, Harvey Levin, then yeah, it would be a huge problem. But he did a lot more than that. He showed up with coffee. He knew all of the plans ahead of time that the people were going to go and break the law. He knew that. He knew where they were going. So, going back to what I was just saying too about the Constitution, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights particularly. Let me just explain this to you. So the Constitution, when they draft the Constitution and they go through all of the different compromises that they had to go through to get to the final draft of the Constitution, and they send it to the different commonwealths to be ratified, and then the people started asking about what their rights were, because the 7 articles of the Constitution outline what the government system is going to be like. Article 1, the Congress. Article 2, the executive branch. Article 3, the judicial branch. It outlines the structure of the government, but there were no rights included for the people. That's why the people asked for the rights after the fact, and that the Bill of Rights are a amendment. And if you look at the First Amendment, the very first word in the First Amendment speaks to Article 1. Congress. Article 1 says Congress, that legislators, people who write laws and make laws, that they go to Washington, D.C., and that's their job, is to write laws and to make laws. And the First Amendment says the very first word speaks to Congress. It speaks to Article 1, and it speaks to the fact that Article 1, Congress can make no laws respecting religion, abridging speech, abridging free expression, abridging religious practices. That Congress is what it speaks to. I don't know where this idea came from that the Bill of Rights, bestowed some rights upon the American people. It's not what happened. The rights of Americans are unalienable is what the Declaration of Independence says. And this law, the FACE Act, it's been used many times to convict old grannies and the old church ladies who were praying in front of the abortion clinic. The Biden administration and the liberals, they created this law specifically in the Clinton administration, specifically to protect abortion clinics. Like, you're going to tell me that abortion clinics have more protections than churches? Thank God Orrin Hatch is the one who added churches into the law, because they were just trying to push it through in the Clinton administration just to protect abortion clinics. And Orrin Hatch says, well, let's put churches in there too, and thank God. But can you imagine that abortion clinics would be more sacred and have more protections than churches? It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, I want to get back into, for the remainder of this podcast, talking about Alexander the Great. And we'll pick this back up again on Friday. But we were talking about Alexander the Great, and we've been talking about the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had about the statue with the 4 different metals, and each one of the metals represents a kingdom. And then Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, the Babylonian kingdom, represented by gold, the Medo-Persian Empire represented by silver, and then the Greek Empire represented by bronze. Something I want you to notice about this statue is the fact that you think about the saying standing on the shoulders of giants, that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, that each civilization learns from the from the preceding civilization, and you're not building a civilization from scratch. You're taking, pieces of the civilization that preceded you and incorporating that into the civilization that you're building. And the saying is standing on the shoulders of giants. But standing on the shoulders of giants would give you the impression that the civilizations are ascending from shoulder to shoulder, that it's going up, ascending. But what you notice here in this statue is that it starts with the head of gold, and then it degrades, the metal degrades as it descends. The civilizations are descending. The metals are stronger. It's like silver stronger than gold, bronze is stronger than silver, iron's stronger than bronze. But you see the value and the purity of the metal. It degrades as it goes. The civilization goes. I was thinking about that. I just think that was interesting. But the bronze, the Greek Empire, it is absolutely impossible to overstate the influence of the Greek people and the Greek culture on today, on the modern world. Although we are in the postmodern world today, but the Greek culture, the Greek people laid the foundations for Western civilization. And there's so much in our language that is Greek. There is so much, and they were doing the scientific method centuries before Francis Bacon called it the scientific method. Art, literature, science again. The Greek people and the impact that they have and the Greek culture have or had on the preceding civilizations, the Romans. I heard someone talking about the Romans and saying that the Romans saw themselves as an extension of the Greek Empire, just like when Charlemagne is crowned the Roman emperor, that he saw himself as an extension of the Roman Empire. And I started thinking about that, and it's absolutely true. The Romans didn't think that they were creating something new. They thought that they were an extension of the Greeks. The Greeks, like I said, laid the foundation for what became Western civilization. And you can, in the words that we use are Greek. You use words that you don't even know are Greek. And there's so many of them. Museum, music, state, city, democracy, all of these philosophy, all of these different words come from the Greek people, and it just shows the impact that the Greeks had. I was talking about the Italian Renaissance in the last podcast a little bit, and talking about the humanists in the Tuscan region of Italy that started what became known as the Italian Renaissance. And if you don't know this, the Italian Renaissance is what led to the Age of Reason and the Enlightenment and brought Europe out of what they were calling the Dark Ages. The Renaissance started that. And what the humanists were doing in Florence when they started the Renaissance, the idea was to resurrect classical antiquity. Right here, this is what it says, classical antiquity. And look at what the picture is here when on the Wikipedia page of classical antiquity. It's the Pantheon. Because the Greeks were who they were reaching back. Now they reached back and they were reading some of the Roman philosophers like Cicero, like Pliny the Younger, and which would have been more contemporary. I mean, to them, philosophers, but they were going back into the Greek philosophies and they were learning logic and trivium and classical education. The liberal arts education came from the Greeks to learn, music, philosophy, and all of this stuff, to be the Renaissance man. Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, what they were doing during the Renaissance period, they were trying to recreate what the Greeks were doing. That is the impact that the Greeks had on Western civilization, is what I'm trying to tell you. And it cannot be understated, the impact that they had. And that can all, you can credit all of that to this man, Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, when he spread the Greek Empire, he was also spreading what is known as Hellenism. And he was Hellenizing all of these different regions. Now, he was conquering the Persian region. Much of the territory that he was conquering was formerly regions of Persia, all the way to India to the east, Egypt. He founded the city of Alexandria in Egypt, which became a metropolitan hub for the people in the Greek Empire. But he not only founded Alexandria in North Africa, he founded another 30 to 40, some people say even 70 different cities that were named after himself. He named one after his horse. But that was his thing, is to found all of these cities throughout the empire, to create these cultural hubs that were also bases for his army to refuel and recruit and to maintain supply chains for the troops that were as far east as India. And what he was doing while he was building these cities, he was Hellenizing these regions. He was conquering much of what was formerly the Persian Empire, but he wasn't getting rid of, the influence of the Persian Empire and their customs. He was incorporating Greek culture with their culture. It was the first real idea of colonization, is what Alexander the Great did, and his generals after him. They were truly colonizing these regions that he was conquering and Hellenizing them, which meant making them, giving them more Greek influence. The Greek language was spoken. That you didn't have to speak the Greek language, but if you wanted to do business, you had to know Greek. If you wanted to participate in what's the word I'm looking for? Municipal benefits of being part of the Greek Empire, you needed to know Greek. You didn't have to know Greek, but many people started to adopt the Greek language and to learn the Greek language and to teach their kids in the Greek language, because learning the Greek language was the avenue of succeeding in the Greek Empire. So the spreading the language was part of it. Spreading the culture was part of it. Spreading the ideas was part of it. And that was all part of the idea of Hellenization. A little bit more about Alexander the Great. When his father was king of Macedon, something important that you should understand about Macedon and here, I'll show you here, and the Greek city states that Macedonia is far to the north. They were basically seen as the what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, they were not respected by the Athenians, by the Spartans, by the southern city states in the area of Greece. And when Philip the Great comes to power, there were a lot of people that resented the fact that that they were being conquered by the Macedonians, because they didn't really care for the Macedonians. They were kind of like these backwoods people that were outside of the metropolitan areas of Athens, of Crete, other places. So the other regions of Greece really didn't care for the Macedonians. And the other thing that I was going to show you here is that Macedon, if you look here at this is the Persian Empire under Xerxes, and you can see that the Persian Empire the Persians had even crossed over into Europe, and for a short period of time, Macedonia was part of the Persian Empire. So a lot of the Persian influence was on the Macedonians. So that's another reason that the Greek city-states to the south of Macedonia basically saw them as, they didn't see them as one of them. They saw them very different from the southern Greeks. I'll just say it like that. So when Philip comes to power and he starts conquering the Greek city-states and uniting all of the Greeks together. That was the first instance of Hellenization, that the Macedonians first had to Hellenize the Greek city-states. And then Alexander was already a general in his father's army. His father, Philip, had created this fighting style, the phalanx, where he gave his men a smaller shield and this long spear, and it proved very effective. It was able to cut down on cavalries charging his army, and that's what allowed Philip to win many of the battles that he had to fight within Greece, to unite the people of Greece, around the Macedonian king. And he had done that successfully. And then he was starting to shift his focus into the Persian Empire. And that's when he's assassinated. And when he's assassinated, Alexander becomes king at 20 years old. Now, Alexander's reign is very short. He ends up dying we don't really know, but 32 years old. He basically reigned for about 12 years. And he's 20 years old when he comes to power. And when he comes to power, many of these Greek city-states that his father, Philip, had won wars against and brought them into a united kingdom under Macedonia. A few of them, when they saw this 20-year-old kid take the throne after Philip was assassinated, they tried to rebel against Alexander. He quickly puts down those rebellions and then reunites the Greek people around him. And then he starts to fulfill what his father's mission was, is that he's going to take the war to the Persian Empire. And he crosses over here in this region right here, crosses over from Europe into Asia, and he takes his campaign over a 12-year period all the way to India, like I said, and he starts to head back, and he dies on his way back. So when Alexander crosses over into Asia from Europe, he never sees Macedonia again. and he is the king for about 12 years. Let's play this clip. This short clip talks about the mission of Hellenizing the conquered territory that Alexander conquered. Take a listen.
One of Alexander's most lasting impacts was the spread of Greek culture, known as Hellenization. Greek became the lingua franca, facilitating trade and communication across diverse regions. Alexander founded or re-established several cities, most notably Alexandria in Egypt. These cities were not just administrative centers, but also hubs of learning and culture where Greek and local traditions merged. One of Alexander's
the library at Alexandria in Egypt, perfect example of Alexander and the type of, because he had been tutored by Aristotle and he had learned history from Aristotle, and he read the Iliad, he read the Odyssey, and he was a really effective and brave military warrior, but he was also really smart and intellectual, and it started from the top. That's just the way the Greek people were. And so that's why he set up a library in Alexandria, because he wanted a place for learning for all the, the people could gather the information of the ages. And when the library of Alexandria was destroyed, and I've been thinking about this, kind of think that maybe it was destroyed on purpose, because powerful people didn't want that much knowledge to be in the hands of the common people. Could you imagine if the library in Alexandria was still around today, and you didn't have to excavate to learn what this history was, and find artifacts that tell you what this history was? It would all be there in that library. I mean, it would be crazy. But that gives you some idea of the mindset that Alexander had. But not only him, the Greek people, and the mindset of the Greek people, and the type of people that they were. Again, they laid the foundations for Western civilization. So after Alexander the Great dies, his generals, they come to an agreement that they're going to try to maintain things, because Alexander dying, that was a huge deal. He's 32 years old. He's taken his armies on all of these campaigns, all the way to as far east as India. He didn't lose a single battle. And then all of a sudden he dies of some illness, typhoid, or we don't really know what it was, but we believe it's typhoid. But he ends up dying in Babylon. And after he dies, it came, as a shock. We have this huge empire. Many of his generals were people who he'd been friends with forever. Some of them were students alongside him under Aristotle. So he had a very close relationship with these generals. And after he dies, there's about 8 generals that start to think about what they're going to do next. And at first, they try to pretend that they're all playing ball, but human nature is human nature. You can't outrun human nature. So, of course, they start fighting each other. The Diadochi is what they're called. The Diadochi were the rival generals, is what this Wikipedia says. Rival generals and families and friends of Alexander the Great, who fought for control over his empire after he died in 323 BC. The Wars of the Diadochi marked the beginning of the Hellenistic period, from the Mediterranean to the Indus River Valley. So the Diadochi, once they end up settling into 3 kingdoms, 3 distinct kingdoms: the Seleucid Empire, Ptolemy, and Achaemenid what's his name? Achaemenides. What was his name? Anyway, so they end up. It ends up being, three separate empires. After Alexander dies, it breaks up with one of his generals controlling each region. Ptolemy in in Egypt. Seleucus ends up controlling Babylon and all the region to the east, and the Levant as well, which is very important because the Jews there are going to be under the Seleucid dynasty and under Seleucid rule when we start getting into the Maccabean revolt. I have a clip here that talks about the Wars of the Diadochi, and then we're almost done here. Let's take a listen to this.
What happened after Alexander the Great died? By the way, hi, I'm Sole, and I love to talk about history in ancient languages. Now, the short answer to that question is chaos. Chaos happened. Let me explain. After Alexander passes, the Diadochi era starts. And the word Diadochi means successors. Now, who were these guys? They were Alexander's former friends, former trusted generals who tried to take over his empire after his passing. This was the empire that Alexander the Great built, and as you can tell, it was huge. Not only that, but it incorporated nations, cultures that were completely different from each other. It spanned from west to east. It was just a very, very big mix. An initial splitting of this territory amongst the Diadochi successors looked like this. But this was not meant to last very long, and the various Diadochi kept trying to fight against each other to conquer each other's territory. They were all very greedy. But now let's give a name to these guys. Who are the Diadochi? We have Ptolemy, Seleucus, Antigonus, Lysimachus, and Cassander.
Antigonus is the one that I was just trying to remember.
If you want to learn about the Diadochi, make sure to check my next videos.
All right, so that's the Wars of the Diadochi, and they basically break up Alexander's kingdom. And like I said, the Jews, they go back and forth being controlled by Ptolemy, and then eventually the Seleucids. They're under the Seleucid empire. Like I said, when the Maccabean revolt happens, we're going to talk about Antiochus Epiphanes and what he does in the temple there. The Greek, we've talked a little bit about the Greek or the Hebrew scriptures when we talked about the Tanakh, and I was explaining to you how the Hebrew scriptures were split between the Torah, the Nevi'im, the Ketuvim, and what the Tanakh was. We talked about that a few podcasts ago. But in the 3rd century in Alexandria, under the Ptolemy dynasty of that period there, the Hebrew scriptures are translated into Greek. And I've told you about this before. It's called the Septuagint. It's done in, not in Jerusalem. It's done in Alexandria. And it's going to be a lot of controversy. But the fact that the Jews had to translate their Hebrew scriptures into Greek is just a testament. It goes to show how much the Greek culture had influenced not only the Jews, everyone in the Greek Empire, no matter after Alexander died and his generals took over, because they reinforced the Hellenization that Alexander had started, the cities, everything that Alexander had done. Basically, they continue. As a matter of fact, Antigonus, the whole dream of all of the Diadochi is after Alexander died was to conquer to keep the entire empire intact with one ruler. They didn't want to split it up into different regions, but that's what ended up happening. But they wanted one of them to come out on top and keep the entire empire intact. That didn't happen. It ended up splitting into these different territories of the empire, but they continue, again, the Hellenization. They continue the cities and the influence of the Greeks. So it becomes very important to the Jews who are living there under the Greeks. This is a very, very important period of time in the history of the Jews in the Second Temple period. So we'll pick this back up in the next podcast, and hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.